Excellent. Good morning. Good morning. I am Joe Rice from Twitter. Really great honor to be here today, talking about a topic near and dear to our hearts at Twitter. Always looking for a good excuse to get to Vienna, and this is a great one. It's an area that has been top of mind for Twitter in the past year, and I definitely want to go into all that. But first, I want to thank Bernie and David and the Oratio team for the chance to speak. I am Joe Rice. I head up a small but merry band of individuals at Twitter that work with organizations of many shapes and sizes, helping them to get the most value and insight from Twitter data, and that is across the whole variety of use cases: customer care, listening, trend detection, and increasingly messaging and conversations. I'm based in London. I think I said that. I've been with the business now for 2 years, and I have to say I'm still always amazed at the ability of a single tweet to be a positive force for change in this world, to inspire, to give hope, to speak truth to power. And as it turns out, a single tweet can also provide an incredible amount of insight into our world, insight that touches just about every aspect of our lives. And if a single tweet can do that, imagine 100, 1,000, or 1,000,000 tweets. What about the 500 million tweets that are sent each and every day around the world? We always ask the question, what's possible when you know what the whole world is thinking about any topic at any time? What would you do with that kind of insight? What questions would you ask of that giant corpus of human-generated thought? How could that improve your decision-making, your business strategy? Those questions and the answers to those questions have very much been the theme of the past decade, certainly the past 5 years, and that is around harnessing the social web for the purposes of understanding. What are people saying about our products and services? What trends should I care about? So if knowing what's happening has been a central theme of the past decade, we think the next big theme is around engagement, around conversations. If you look back, the way people have interacted with consumer technology has shifted over the years. From the first graphical user interface that made technology accessible to early adopters, to the web page, which brought that to the masses, to the smartphone, which democratized technology and insight all the more. There have been many transformations, and we think the next one is this idea of conversational user interfaces. And by the way, every time there has been a transformation in technology, there's been a corresponding change in marketing. If you think about the web page, it brought about digital advertising. The smartphone brought about mobile advertising. And here too, we think that conversational UIs will transform marketing, make it more engaging, more authentic, more sincere. So that's what I'm here to talk about today. In my 15 minutes of fame, I will share a few brief case studies. I'll talk about the features and functionality that we have developed that developers can build on. And I'm here, I was going to say cry for help. It's a call for help. I want people to use these tools to really build engaging, innovative things. We are the platform. You guys do the creative stuff, working with brands and agencies. And so I hope that's your takeaway today, is some of the interesting things that you can help your clients build on. So I will start with a brief case study, the concept of paid marketing. So if you have an engaging experience, you can create a microsite, you can create a full-blown web experience, and then of course you have to find ways to drive people to that experience. Absolutely nothing wrong with that, but the challenge there is getting the audience, bringing people to that creative creation that you've had. Well, Wendy's took a different approach. They built the experience on the platform, and then were able to drive and both a paid, but also an organic way, drive people to that experience. And in this case, I know it's a lot of verbiage, but basically Wendy's, a fast food chain in the US, has a relationship with the National Collegiate Athletic Association. And every March, there's a big basketball tournament, collegiate basketball tournament. 64 teams play together, a single elimination tournament. And it's become a big thing for people who are not even into basketball to try to pick the winners. And as this bracket narrows down, you get to a winner. So there are millions of permutations. Wendy said, well, we're going to get involved with this, and we're going to help you build a bracket. And you can see there a couple options, auto replies there. They can build an unreasonably easy bracket. You can pick your own, or they can take you to the final four, and then you choose the outcome of the final 4 games, or actually it's the final 3 games if there are 4 left. So this is very much about fun, about engaging. This was promoted. It was paid, right? So they put money to share this. But interestingly, it got more organic traction than paid traction. And that's because of this idea of the ability on Twitter to go from public to private. And I'll talk a bit more about that later. Our next victim, Starbucks, was very concerned, or interested, I guess is the right word, at driving in-store traffic. And so they built a bot to sign up for FlashPass. And once you subscribed, you would get offers and promotions that you could then take into your local Starbucks and have your latte or whatever it is you drink. And it was quite successful. 3 times the average click-through rate than they normally would have had. And actually, probably the most amazing thing is that nearly 1/3 of the people actually subscribed. 1/3 of the people subscribed to this subscription service. When was the last time, if you think about it, people went to a website and signed up for the newsletter? Right? That very rarely happens. You get almost 1/3 of people doing so. So huge success for them, in a way then to communicate with people in a one-on-one fashion that they couldn't before. On to the idea of earned and owned, or I use the term organic. One of the things you see today, and it's brought up by Bernie, I think, is the idea that websites are actually visited less and less, and mobile more. And a lot of studies on usage of apps, but it's something like 85% of our time is spent in just 5 apps. Pretty amazing, right? You look at your screen, you have all these apps, but very, very few actually get used. So the challenge there is that brands create these amazing experiences, but yet you still have the challenge of driving people to the app store, to download the thing. And that's half the battle. Once they've downloaded it, they still have to use it, and clearly they're not using it. So the idea there is, how can you build something that already has an audience that you can drive people to? That's what that's what United did. They already had an audience on Twitter. And so they created a relatively simple experience here, where you could check the status of your flight, ask questions, talk to a human. And there's actually revenue potential there for them, because they have the flight deals from my city as well. So there we have it. In December, as of, I think, 6 months of having this experience running, they handled 10% of their inbound traffic. So a pretty big chunk. Now, if you don't know much about the customer care world, clearly you want to help resolve customers' issues, but cost is also an issue, right? So if you can divert people to channels that, 1, they enjoy, but 2, are much cheaper, it's a win-win situation. So United was able to do just that and improve response times by 22%. And we know from many studies that if you can respond in under 2 hours, the propensity to spend by consumers and the propensity to spend goes up and the churn goes down. So again, responding very quickly is important. And finally, everyone's favorite all-American diner, Denny's. I have not been there for many years. So Denny's, excuse me. Denny's was similar to Starbucks in that they wanted to drive people in store. They also wanted to allow you to create orders, so you could pick up in store or at delivery in some markets. And then interesting as well, you see here, link your Denny's account, and that's where things get really interesting. So if you're able to get permission to link your ad handle to your customer ID, you can then start to understand a lot about that that customers. Now, of course, you would have a customer, if they're your customer, you may have their phone and email and address, but you don't necessarily know their interests. If you can connect those two things, you can start to infer a lot based on who they follow, what they tweet about, start to build up a really interesting picture, and then use that to serve them better. So that's what Denny's was starting to do with this experience. So I've covered customer care there. I talked a little bit about driving people in the store, ordering, revenue potential. There are many, many use cases there. We haven't scratched the surface yet. But I ask you guys again to think about some of the things that you could build for your brands. Probably the question is, why do it on Twitter? Well, we think Twitter is quite unique in this ability to combine a public social network and a private chat, private conversation, and the ability to go from one to the other and then back again. So in this example, you have Focus Features here, who released the movie The Beguiled. Now, interestingly, they released this film, this tweet as a promoter. They put money behind this, but it's being shared organically. So an individual who saw this in their timeline said, that's really interesting. I'm gonna share this, and they have. And 3 click-through options there: take the quiz, watch the trailer, and buy tickets. Right? So I've gone on there and I've clicked take the quiz, and it takes me through the quiz. There's about 5 questions. Sorry, I didn't do too bad. 4 out of 5. And then it gives me some buttons, so I can play again, follow The Beguiled, or I can share that score. So I've chosen to share it, and you can see there in number 3, tweet compose, fills it out for me, adds the link, and then I hit tweet, and there you have it. I'm supposed to be Jeff here. There's me, Jeff, sharing this tweet organically to my followers, to my audience. So we've gone from public to private to public again, and it could continue like that. It could go back to private as someone says, that's interesting, I want to engage. So that's what I mean about this ability to combine a public social network with a private DM, private conversational experience. We know that people on Twitter have a unique customer mindset. Twitter is very much more about look at this than look at me. Certainly nothing wrong with look at me, sharing photos of family and friends. I do that every day on Facebook and Instagram. I use LinkedIn. Twitter very much is around look at this. It's around influencing. It's around discovery. The discovery mindset actually is quite critical. And we know, looks like the conversion there to Keynote to PowerPoint screwed up. We know that 80% of people actively engage with brands. It's just become something that people understand. If they want to engage with a brand, they want to see an official response, they want to take the nuclear option when it comes to customer care, Twitter is a great place to do that. It's also a great place for breaking news as well. And of course, more people say they expect brands to engage with you on Twitter than other social networks. Oh, and Forrester. Yes, Forrester says it must be true. Forrester had this concept of social stars, looking at how people engage with certain content. And again, they were talking about how Twitter is a great place to engage with brands, more so than other social platforms. So I promised this list. We typically look at experiences in one of three areas, 3 buckets: marketing, loyalty, and customer care. And I think, much like the United example, some of the best bot-like experiences have some aspect of all 3. And what we see is as brands engage in one area, they tend to add in other features and go across those 3. Not an exhaustive list by any means, but gives you some idea of the art of the possible. We look for creative ideas from the developer community. So that's where a lot of these things are coming from. Again, we're the platform. We want to provide APIs and webhooks and things that let you build these really rich, engaging experiences. So what does this feature set look like I've been talking about? Well, two areas. I mean, one, discovery is important. Right? If you can't drive people there, if they can't find it, the experience is useless. And again, thinking about the idea of the mobile app, some great apps out there, but people don't know they exist. I forget all the time. I'm always amazed that I find an app on my phone that's been there for 2 years that I've never used, right? So discovery can be an issue. In the discovery world, we've got a couple options here. The direct message card, direct message deep link, the message button, and buttons on websites, which I guess we ran out of clever names for what we should call that. So, to take you through these things, the direct message card. So the idea here, this is really where it starts. This can be shared organically or in a paid, promoted context. The idea here then is to get something on someone's timeline and then drive them into that DM experience. You can see you can have up to four buttons, click-throughs, to get you started, and then off you go. Direct message deep link then. One of the original broken windows, if you will, that we found when it came to customer care on Twitter was the fact that you could only take a customer care interaction so far publicly before you had to go private because an account number had to be shared, some sort of private information that you don't want out there to 340 million people. But also, at the same time, it was a bad experience for the brand, Spotify Cares, to say to Kyle here, please go and DM us and start this interaction over again. It's very much like when you call and you give on the phone and you give someone all your details and context, and they transfer. You have to repeat it again. Thank you very much. I just told 2 people this. So the idea with the DM, the deep link here, is continuity, really. The ability to click into that private message, to see that history there, and then pick up right where you left off for the customer, Kyle in this case, to say, hey, Spotify Cares, my account number is 123, and then continue and resolve that issue. So again, from public to private, and then as you'll see, we'll take it back to public again when you can share a feedback summary of how that experience went. And finally, the profile button, the most humble of the interaction points. You'll notice this today on many profiles. If you go into business settings, you can see you can set this up for your own handle. I have that on mine at Joseph L. Rice. I think I say I'm responsive 9 to 6, but I'm actually more responsive than that, generally speaking. But that DM button lets you go right into a private experience with the brand. So that was discovery. That's how you find this great, engaging experiences. Now I want to talk about some of those experiences themselves. First up, the welcome message. So the idea here, and you've already seen the Wendy's basketball builder, but the idea here is when you click on a DM button, you have some context. Hi, Joe. Welcome to T-Mobile. We're very busy today. We do hope to get to you in the next 2 hours. Or whatever it may be, that's free-form text. It greets you. It gives you context. And that leads nicely into this concept of quick replies. So these are basically buttons, if you will, that take you off into a workflow. So you can imagine TGI Fridays is an example here. Welcome to TGI Fridays. We'd love to help you or take your order. I come into the quick reply, and below you'll see I can order. I can ask a question. I can enter a contest. You've got options there that take you on different directions. Tesco in the UK is a good example. At Tesco, they've got recipe finder, they've got experts in floral, all kinds of different options, and they've been able to create those options because they thought hard about the common questions they get, and they're able then to divert people down these paths, which hopefully can take some burden off the human agents. So this is a great example of humans and bots working harmoniously. Location sharing. Only about 2.5%, 3% of people have location sharing on their device, on their tweets. So this can be quite helpful when you're in an experience. You played a game, and they said, "Hey, you've just won a free burger. Redeem at your nearest TGI Fridays." Great. Where is the nearest TGI Fridays, by chance? You can share your location, and it will spit back some options near you. So relatively straightforward, but again, quite helpful in the experience. And buttons on messages. We already talked about this again, but the ability to engage with the brand, with this experience or bot, and then share that out, follow, or do a whole host of actions to kind of close that out. Custom profiles. So this is where we start to talk about the idea of bots and humans. One of the things that we heard from consumers was they actually like to know, when they started to realize that they were talking to bots and didn't know it, they then wanted to know, am I talking to a bot or am I talking to a human? It's the Turing test live every day. So we came up with this idea of custom profiles, which allows a brand, if a brand has 12 different social customer care agents, each one can have their own profile. Here's Alyssa here, her photo, and then she's got some emojis of her interests. So simple as that. It lets you know that you're dealing with a real human on the other end. And again, it's nice to know that there is someone there. You can relate to them better when you see the picture, you know their name, maybe you know their interest. She's interested in American football. Fantastic. So that's what custom profiles is all about. And finally, customer feedback cards. There's been a challenge in getting feedback around social interaction when it comes to customer care. When you have done any kind of if you called a company, 1-800 or 0800 number, they'll oftentimes ask, would you like to stay on the line and ask a couple questions? Very rarely do people stay on the line and ask or answer a couple questions. The same thing with email. Sometimes they'll shoot you an email back and say, would you please just answer these 3? We've done a very similar thing, but we wanted to make it seamless and simple. So we've given the ability to embed feedback cards into that DM experience, whether that is NPS, as you can see here, or CSAT. So I'm at Fernie here. I'm dealing with a customer. They say, hey, thanks, Fernie, that was great. I can say something like, Kate, can you tell us what you think? Your feedback will go straight to our team. I, as the agent, click a little button. In goes the feedback card, and then hopefully the consumer completes that and responds. And interestingly, we were wondering how this would turn out. And after almost a year now of this, the results have been amazing. 60% of consumers have participated, have given feedback, right? And if anyone knows that industry well, the customer feedback industry, you're lucky to get 15% in most cases when it comes to surveys, the pop-ups and whatnot. So 60% has been amazing feedback for the brand on how they're doing. And of that 60%, 20% actually left comments. So they left more detail, which is insightful as well. So an amazing feedback loop there for your brand, for your clients. Rich media and DMs, this is just a great way of saying that you can do all kinds of clever things, videos, moments, GIFs, you name it. There's all kinds of creative, artistic ways to engage with people in that DM experience. So that is a laundry list of some of the things we've done in the past year. You can find out more information on this at twitter.developers.com, I think. I might have to Google that. I may have that flipped around. But all our API information, lots more detail, lots more case studies is all there. I will close by simply saying that Again, I've said this many times, but we're the platform. We want to engage with the developer community to really build interesting things for brands. We have amazing ways to drive an audience, both paid and organic, to those experiences, and then give them the ability to share that with their following. So it goes round and around. And with that, I will say thank you. Right on time. No.
If you don't mind, I have a couple of questions of my own, if you don't mind. So it's really interesting what's possible so far with interacting with your clients in different ways, and it seems like almost any sector can be doing this. We're talking like from Starbucks to United. That's a pretty big spectrum there. My question is, we've seen a couple of best practices. Are there any kind of no-goes of way to interact with people on such a personal level?
Yes.
Okay. What would those be?
Well, we do have. It's probably important to note we have some automation rules that prevents bad spammy behavior, and you'll if you go to the developers link, which I don't remember, you'll see more information about that. I mean, I guess ultimately, I'm sure there have been bad examples, and there will be other bad examples in the future. I think the idea is just thinking about the objective of this bot experience you're creating. We do ask to be thoughtful about those automation rules, so your app experience doesn't get shut down by us. We have taken a pretty serious line, as you may have read in the press, around malicious bots and actors on Twitter that try to change trends and other malicious things going on. But it is a canvas, and I have to say very humbly, we're learning as we go. A year ago we weren't ready to speak at this conference because we didn't have a whole heck of a lot, and now we do, and we want to get it out there and engage the creative minds to do so.
I mean, it seems like Twitter is kind of a different beast than most of the messenger apps and messenger services that exist. So how do you deal with things like, because it's kind of a marriage of the private life and the public sphere that people are experiencing in one place? How do you deal with things like, for instance, the new data privacy directive from the EU? Like, that's an internationally big thing for a lot of social media platforms, for sure. But I mean, I'm sure Twitter has a very special experience that the user's having.
Well, I mean, on that directive, not to be evasive, but the reality is we have to follow the rules and local regulations, and we aim to do so. When we understand them, one of the big issues is sometimes a lack of clarity on what these directives mean around where data can sit, what is expected locally. So when we understand those things, we comply. And again, the big focus for us as a business in the last year has been around, one, discovery, making content easier to find on the platform, focus more on interests. Two, focusing on detecting, removing bad behavior, spams, and whatnot. So there's still lots of work to be done there. But yes, that is fresh out of the oven, hot out of the oven. And I'm sure our compliance team will have a much better answer there for you.
Okay. I mean, of course, there are best practices, and the definition of the word consent is a big issue, I think, for a lot of social media platforms and these kind of messaging services. By the way, everybody, feel free if you want to ask a question. I know that Twitter's here for the first time, so we might want to, if anyone's been using Twitter, building blocks in any way, have made bots themselves, or have questions about how that's possible, on what level, feel free. Besides kind of no-goes and things with the with buttons and things like that, is that consent on that level? Or are you then can you DM a user on any level, or is there a
no? So this is all about consent. So it's about it's subscription based. So it's opting in, and that has to be very clear. If you saw the Wendy's one, there's even a link to terms and conditions. Which I think is mandated by U.S. law when it comes to contests of what you can and can't do. So yes, this is about opting in and being very clear that you're opting in. The FastPass was very similar. I agreed to opt into this, and I will get DMs. And I think there's even Starbucks said they told how often you would get these messages. And then of course you have the ability to turn them off as well. So if you go to The Economist now, you can see some of the alerts where they'll push you new articles, interesting articles that they have. So that's a kind of a good way to see what I'm talking about when it comes to the alerting. At TFL in London, I follow the Bakerloo line because it's my route to work. And the great thing is, when you get up in the morning, get ready, you're on autopilot, and you don't necessarily always think to check, I wonder if the Bakerloo line is down today. But at TFL and at Bakerloo line will actually push me notifications when there's a delay on the line. And I don't really have any other way to get that from Transport for London. So again, a great example of pushing information, how that can be quite helpful.
So actually for service industry or infrastructure, things like that, those are kind of governments or municipal entities going into your private space, if I can say it that way. Is that a step that's already being taken by a lot of communities, or is that something very, very new?
Well, in the case of TFL, they actually, they don't know anything about you. I've not given them any information other than the fact that at my handle I've subscribed. So, and of course, we vet those requests to do those kinds of things. But no, I think it'd be probably wrong to say that they have information about you. The Transport Authority has information about me other than the fact that I'm subscribed to those alerts.
Okay, cool. So what is the next thing that Twitter's concentrating on? I mean, we've seen this is a kind of customer interaction on a new level. Is there a wider spectrum this can be used in? What are you looking into now?
Yeah, well, some of the things that I showed, our start in bots, I guess, would be fair to say, was around customer care, resolution of customer issues. Now we're taking the bot world, automation world, into the marketing, into the world. So there's no surprise I showed some marketing case studies there. So yeah, I think what you'll see from us is continued kind of evolution, development, innovation, probably is the right word, when it comes to all the things I showed that build around that. Customer care is still hugely important to us in making Twitter effective, efficient customer care medium. You know, we have stats that 80% of customer care now is on Twitter. So you know, I do a lot of evangelizing at customer care conferences about the value of doing that. So that's on the you know, kind of the advertising data side of things. And as I said, as a business, the focus, our tagline, what's happening? It's all about ensuring that people are able to share a voice, even if you disagree with that voice, and you know, highlighting all sides. So our continued focus on discovery of good quality content that's relevant to you, and ensuring the platform is safe. So two of the big thrusts for us going forward.
And you're actually in charge of Europe, Middle East, and Africa when it comes to the partnerships. So is there a geographic way you could say, for instance, I mean, we all know the United States is very active on Twitter, but in Europe, even within the continent, are there differences in how much people are willing to interact on Twitter, or what demographics interact? Have you seen vast differences in behavior?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are clearly some markets that were just very strong, and I'm speaking markets outside the U.S., UK being one. In Japan, we're the #1 social network. Apparently you can say a hell of a lot in 140 characters in Japanese, and so you know, one of the issues there is different languages allow you to say a lot less or more. You may have seen a little thing going out around us testing. Going to 280 characters. So we're doing some tests now in the next month to see what people think about that. And but yeah, we have different markets. You know, quite strong in France, Spain. We've seen uptick in the DACH region as a whole. Turkey, very big. Saudi Arabia. A lot of people engaged in Saudi, and So yeah, again, I think there's some cultural nuances and whatnot. But
I'd be interested. I mean, we're a bunch of friendly international geeks here. Why not see? Okay, who here uses Twitter on a daily basis? Okay, it's like 1/3 of you. Okay, who uses it on a weekly basis? Same guys, please. Yeah. Okay, that's about half of you. Okay, so is it something that is just for private life? Private life, hands up. For work? Yeah, so that's I think really interesting, because I think in the United States it's much more on a personal level. You know, you tweet about what you had for breakfast sometimes. You know, and I think, at least in my experience in Europe, that's not as common. So that's also a behavioral aspect. Are you looking into things like that? Are you looking into whether people want to know about where to go to dinner, or want to know whether they should invest in certain stock options?
I'm not sure we have a particular view or forcing people to you should use Twitter for this or that. It's an open dialogue platform. You can share your breakfast cereal or your views on an election. I do a lot around politics and economics and satire about politics and economics. It just gets me through the last year or so. So I mean, again, I think that's I don't think we have a view about what you should be tweeting about. We think everybody has a voice, and Twitter is a platform to allow for that.
Fantastic. Is there anything you want to leave us with? Any insight from Twitter for the new kind of business related targeting?
I have a very poor Twitter following. 610 people. People always think I should have thousands. So follow me at Joseph L. Rice. I don't know if you'll learn much. You'll be entertained. No, I think of the parting shot. I won't regurgitate what I said, but this is a promising area. We're quite committed. If you go onto the developer website, which again I can't remember, you'll find it's been reorganized, refreshed. It's a little bit easier to use to find what you need. We're redoing. Twitter is unique in that our APIs are public. And that will remain so, but we're trying to make it even easier for developers to get at real-time and historic data they need to do interesting projects and find insights.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very, very much, Joe Rice. This was really, really interesting, really insightful. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And everybody, please, a round of applause for Joe Rice.